I have some really lofty garden goals for this year. And I'll be real, I have lofty garden goals every single year that I never ever manage to succeed in. And this year, the goals are so long that I had to write an actual list of everything that I wanted to accomplish. And I'm hoping that because I have my allotment and my backyard garden that I can actually succeed this year. But in today's video, I just wanted to tell you all the things that I wanted to do as a urban homesteader or attempted homesteader, and all the things that I want to be growing and accomplishing with my produce. And I just thought this would be a fun little tea time chat. I've got my matcha tea here, and I just wanted to tell you guys all the things that I'm hoping to achieve in my garden in terms of pantry food. And if this is something that you're also going to do too, just let me know in the comments below. I also have some questions because I've never done a lot of this before. So if you've done this before, please let me know in the comment section. But otherwise, I hope you enjoy this video and you can relate to everything I'm looking to do this year. If you're new here, my name is Bree from Urban Gardening Canada, and I garden in Ottawa, Zone 5. And so I have 3 lists on here. The first one is garden foods that I want to can. The second one is things that I want to freeze. And the final one is things that I want to dry. And so if you watched my dumb garden mistakes video that I put out a few weeks ago, then you'll know all the things that I'm hoping to freeze with a little bit extra. But otherwise, I haven't talked about the rest of them here. And so I just want to take you through my list of different things. So the first 3 that I want to do are all tomato related. So I am hoping to make enough tomato sauce to last me until next year's tomato season. Because I like to buy, I grow organically, and so it just makes sense that when I buy my tomato sauce is organic too. That's just how I want to eat. And so I'm hoping I can make enough tomato sauce for the whole year. And I've never ever made tomato sauce before. I've never canned anything before. So this is new. The one thing that I'm hopeful for is the fact that you can water bath anything tomato related because of the acidity, and that one looks a lot easier to do for newbies. And because all of the equipment is only like $18, it doesn't feel like it's that expensive to attempt. And we actually don't eat a lot of pasta or anything in our house. So I think that 6 jars, like the 500 ml, 1 liter, 6 1-liter tomato sauce jars is all I really need to get me through a whole year. So I think I'm planting 12 Roma. I have a San Marzito and then just plain Romas. I think I'm gonna do 12 tomato plants this year. And I'm hoping that 12 will, at minimum, 2 plants will do 1 jar, but if I'm lucky, maybe 1 plant will do 1 jar. I've never grown them before specifically for canning, so if you have a better idea of how many tomato plants produce tomato sauces in the 1-liter jars or whatever size you do, I would love to hear it. And then the second thing that I want to do is whole canned tomatoes. So you can buy like the 500 milliliter cans of literal whole peeled tomatoes, and I use those to make tomato soup, which technically I can just make tomato soup when it's fresh and just freeze that, which is kind of the same thing. But I kind of like the idea of being able to water bathe whole tomatoes so that way I can make the soup whenever I feel like it, and I'm not having to make it in the thick of tomato season and being all stressed out. And the final tomato product that I want to make is sun-dried tomatoes. So thankfully I've done sun-dried tomatoes before, so this one stresses me out a lot less. So I am growing, I think, 6 Principe Bourgeois, so fancy sounding, tomatoes. That these are actually the traditional sun-drying tomato variety, and I don't like raw tomatoes, but I love this variety. Something about its sweetness and its texture is really good. And so I have a dehydrator, so making sun-dried tomatoes is easier for me. I also have turned my cold frame outside into a solar dehydrator, so if I need to double it up, I can dehydrate inside the house and outside. And I love these. They're super easy to store. I don't turn them back into slightly rehydrated and canned. That way I actually just store them as dried tomatoes in my pantry, and they can last. I've had mine easily last a whole year in my pantry. I don't know if there's food safety rules, but that's just what's worked for me. And then I just rehydrate them when we're about to cook with them because it takes 5 minutes. It's super easy. I actually made an article on my website on how to sun dry tomatoes, so I'll leave that in the link below if you're interested on sun drying them and rehydrating them and how to do that. So that is high on the list. I want to have a year's supply of sun dried tomatoes, and this is the one that I'm less sure I'll be able to get enough of because we eat a lot of sun-dried tomatoes. We have a really amazing sun-dried tomato pasta recipe where the sauce has blended tomatoes in it, and we put it on pizza and different breakfast items. There's just so many ways to use them, and they taste really good as like snacks when they're dehydrated. They're just like these chewy snacks that are really nice to eat as well. So I think I only planted 6 of these tomato plants, and I hope 6 is enough. It is an indeterminate that has cherry tomatoes, so it should produce a lot, but every year is a new year. We never know, so we'll see how that one turns out. Okay, next up on the list is pureed pumpkin. So I'm growing a variety called Winter Luxury, and it says it's really good for pumpkin pie. So I'm assuming it'll be the right variety for what I'm looking for. I don't eat a lot of pumpkin pie, but we make mac and cheese where we use pumpkin puree in it to give it that like saucy deliciousness to it. It's like a very fall flavored. It's got allspice and nutmeg in it and cinnamon and then the pumpkin. So it's almost like, it's not a pumpkin pie, but it's kind of like a pumpkin pie mac and cheese. But also maybe I want to make pumpkin pie. And so the goal is to grow enough pumpkins that I can bake them, puree them, and then just freeze them. Although maybe I can can it, but that one seems like I have to pressure can it, and I've never pressure canned before. And I feel like the setup to buy the pressure canner is expensive. And so that is where I'm less sure about that. So if you own a pressure canner and you could let me know what brand you have and how much it costs you, that would be really cool. So that way I can, and any tips that you have on pressure canning so I can feel a little less nervous on it. Because right now I just keep my pureed pumpkin in the freezer. And again, I want a year's supply worth. And I think I'm now at almost 2 years with the pumpkin that I've had in my freezer. And I had maybe 8 1-liter jars, and we still have a ton left. So I really don't need a lot of pumpkins in order to get a year's supply. But I've also never successfully grown pumpkins. I've only had pumpkins that people have given me. So I'm hoping with the allotment, the full sun, and the big amount of space that I'll be able to get pumpkins this year for the first time ever in my life. So also any pumpkin growing tips I'll take from you as well. All right, the next up is pickles and pickled beans. So this one I make all the time, but I just do quick pickling. So refrigerator pickles that stay inside of the fridge. I want to have a year's supply of pickles and pickled beans, which is really simple for me to do. I still have a few jars left over from last year, and it's my grandma's recipe, and so it's near and dear to my heart. So I will never try any other type of pickle recipe. This quick pickle version is a family recipe, which is on my website if you want to try my grandma's recipe. And then pickled beans is also on my website too if you want to check that one out. So I don't eat a lot of pickled beans. I probably only need like 4 jars, which is so simple because beans are so prolific. And then the cucumbers, hit or miss every single year on how cucumbers will do, but I need only about like 10 jars of pickles to get me through a whole year. So that's also on the list. How many like jars am I up to? I'm up to like 30 or 40 jars of food. Okay, so Colin really likes pickled eggplants or like eggplants in oil. I'm actually really not sure what it is. There's like the muffalata that he buys too. If anyone knows what any of this stuff is, I haven't researched it yet, but I think it's like cooked or pickled eggplant and other ingredients inside of olive oil. So I need to figure out what that is and if I can possibly make it, because I'm growing like 50 eggplant plants this year of like 10 different varieties, and I'm so excited because we are huge eggplant fans in this house, and I just wanted to try a bunch of different varieties to see if they taste different or cook different. So I have like the little fingers. I'm trying to grow Casper, but they have not germinated properly, and I have long Italian, and then some other ones that I can't remember how to pronounce them. So I'm super excited about those, and I'm just worried that if I have too much eggplant, then maybe I can make some baba ganoush that I can freeze, or else try and figure out this pickled or oiled eggplant in a jar. So again, if you make that, please tell me below. Next is ground cherry jam. So I love ground cherries. I'm obsessed with them, and I usually, this past year, I didn't get very many of them because the earwigs were out of control. So whenever I opened one of the husks, an earwig fell out, and I just like, I wasn't interested in harvesting them this year. But also the squirrels just beat me to tons of them. And honestly, if they want to go after a ground cherry with an earwig in it, fair game. It was fair game. But this year I'm hoping that I can eat a bunch of them, but I also want to try and make ground cherry jam because the ground cherries are such a unique summer flavor. Although I have seen them in the grocery store all winter long, which is surprising. They generally are very, very much a summer flavor. And I'm allergic to raw pineapple, so I can't eat pineapple. So ground cherries is like the closest thing that I can get that tastes like pineapple, since I tragically cannot eat it. And so I was thinking I would try and harvest enough to make some jam, so that way I can have that iconic summer deliciousness all winter long. I've also never made jam before. And then I was watching that Meghan Markle TV show with Love Meghan or something like that on Netflix. And apparently I maybe want to make a ground cherry preserve because there's less sugar in it than jam. So much to learn, so much to figure out. So any jam or preserve tips you got, give them to me below as well. And then next up, I tried to do this last year and failed, was smoking my jalapenos into chipotles or chipotle peppers. So I bought a little smoker and I have the wood chips, and you can do it in your barbecue. And I just didn't get my wood chips hot enough and smoking enough, that by the time I figured out what I was doing and that it wasn't smoking enough, I'd already been running the barbecue for like an hour. And so I just stopped. I didn't try again because that's such a big waste of propane, and I can try again this year. And now that I know what I'm doing, I'm hoping it'll help. But we absolutely love chipotle here. So I figured if I could turn my jalapenos into chipotle, then why not? And I can make some hot sauce or some chipotle mayo or something like that. So that is high on the list for this season as well. And then, as if this wasn't all enough, I really want to make sauerkraut. I would say kimchi too, but kimchi seems unattainable for me this year. I want to make sauerkraut. I bought the sauerkraut crock pot, and I'm growing some cabbage that are being hardened off right now, and I'm hoping they can get outside soon if we stop getting snow and ice around here. And I'm hoping that I can grow my own cabbage and make my own sauerkraut that can last me for the whole year too. I keep buying sauerkraut from the grocery store, and because it smells so bad, I can't tell the difference between if it smells bad because it's good or if it smells bad because it's bad. And so I'm hoping I can make my own this year and see how that goes, because I'll hopefully remember what it smelled like when I first made it versus later. It's all a giant experiment. Okay, so next up is the food that I want to freeze and not waste this year. I always grow kale and Swiss chard, and the plants get mega sized, and over the summertime I'm like, what do I do with all of this? There's so much here. There's just too much, and I feel overwhelmed. I can't eat it in every single meal. And not once did it ever cross my mind to harvest it, clean it, and freeze it for the winter time. Like, just so foolish, because for how much Swiss chard and kale I grew this past year, like I was overflowing with it. I could have had an entire freezer full of it to be eating all winter long, but instead we're out at the grocery store buying kale and frozen kale and fresh kale, and foolish. So This year, I plan on regularly harvesting it and freezing it. Same with my sweet potato. I grew sweet potato last year, and then as I was harvesting it, I pulled off some of the leaves and froze them, and it turns out in the freezer they just crushed to a powder. And so I'm going to freeze them and then take them out, crush them down so I can keep on harvesting more and more sweet potato leaves because they're so high in vitamins. It just makes sense. And then the final freezer item is edamame. We love to eat edamame for appetizers before dinner, and so we are going to grow that. And last year we weren't able to grow it and freeze it because I was short on seeds, so we had to prioritize saving seeds off the plants. But this year we have an envelope jammed full of edamame seeds. So this is the year that we're going to be growing them and being able to have enough that we can freeze it. And I highly doubt we'll have enough to last us until next year, but even if we can get like 4 months of edamame, I'll be pretty happy with that. And the final thing that I want to accomplish is drying my herbs. So that's dill, oregano, basil, and sage. I have the oregano and sage perennialized in my garden, and then the dill and the basil, I'm hoping I can grow enough that I can harvest it and dehydrate it. I'm really lazy when it comes to dehydrating. I just find it to be a lot of work because I have to run it for 18 hours and then check on it and then pull some out and leave some and blah blah, and I just don't take care of it properly. But I'm hoping that this year I will pay better attention and be more organized and do it, because we've been buying herbs all winter long, which is so upsetting because I grow all of this in the garden. So why are we wasting our money? And it comes in plastic packaging, which upsets me because I try and shop with as little plastic as possible. So if I could be growing it in my garden and harvesting and dehydrating it for the whole year versus buying it, I should be doing that. So that's the plan. So these are really lofty goals, like I told you. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items to be canned, 4 to be frozen, and 4 to be dried. So that's some like true homestead goals right there. I am so chaotic and disorganized in the summertime. So this is like those dreams where you're fantasizing in the winter of how amazing your garden's going to be, how successful, how much food you're going to be drowning in, and it's going to be incredible. Those are those winter fantasies, when in reality in the summer you're like, oh my God, there's weeds everywhere. Oh, this is failing from too much rain. Something ate all my edamame, and it's pure chaos. That's what's actually going to happen. But in the meantime, I have my fantasy list of what I'm hoping to accomplish. So if you watched this whole video and you have any input for everything that I wrote on here, please leave it in the comments below. I'll take any tips on how to do a better job of processing stuff in my kitchen over the garden season. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and check out this video here. Bye.